Hi, I'm the Space Quest historian. You may have noticed there's a touch of the sniffles going around planet-wide, and of course that got me thinking about computer games and adventure games, and I don't mean to make light of the situation by talking about the recent worldwide pandemic in video game terms. That's not my intention at all, but it did get me thinking about how you rarely see in adventure games protagonists or indeed characters who are suffering from some sort of disease, especially in the protagonist category. It's rare to see a person suffering from any sort of disease or disability or something like that. Does it feel as a little strange? I mean, I can see why, because foregoing the obvious pitfalls of portraying someone suffering from a disability or a congenital disease or something that might end up killing them, like the fucking coronavirus or something, foregoing all of the moral and ethical pitfalls of that, just in terms of game mechanics, there are several ways to go about this. The standard RPG way to go about it is to just tell you your character's been poisoned, and then a timer sort of ticks down and you start losing health. And there are a number of problems with this for me. One is the health meter. I don't like playing adventure games that have health meters in them. I can't think of any adventure game that had a health meter which was actually implemented in a fun gameplay kind of way. I can think of games that do. Harvester had a health meter. Star Trek The Next Generation Final Unity had a health meter for reasons I am not entirely clear on. And it turns the adventure game into a bit of an arcadey experience. It makes you really cautious and really question your choices. Will this hurt me? Or is there some penalty waiting around the corner that I can't? Or is there some challenge waiting around the corner that I can't because I've now penalized myself? Or is there a penalty indeed for just taking damage? And then it becomes sort of a guessing game. And adventure games are not supposed to be about guessing games. They're supposed to be about logic and figuring out and stealing people's shit. So I don't like the health meter. I also don't like the timer aspect of it. You've been poisoned. You now have 30 minutes to live. Cool. It's artificial challenge, in my opinion. But then there's the polar opposite, where the disease is not part of the gameplay aspect, it's more part of the story aspect. Shardlight did this by having a central character, the protagonist even, who is suffering from a lethal disease. What is the correct term for that? A fatal affliction. She's got the plague, is what I'm trying to say, and will eventually keel over and die from it. But in no way will she do that as you're playing the game. It's not like there's a timer running that goes, Amy, you have so-and-so to live until you keel over and die right in the middle of an exciting bit of exposition or drawing dicks on whiteboards. Shardlight. Parentheses. Thank you so much for including the option to draw dicks on all your whiteboards. Fantastic. Anyway, that has nothing to... Well, that might actually be a disease of some kind. But anyway, not one that will necessarily kill you. But that's the other side of it. That's having it be part of the plot, but not in a way that will just stop your adventure dead in its tracks. But I feel like somewhere in the middle of that, there's got to be an exciting way to have a central character who is under threat of something that will kill them. Because I'm a big fan of body horror, and I like 80s Cronenberg-y type movies where there's something inside them that's eating them up from inside, and then it's all gonna come out at some point. We just don't know when, and I dislike the timer health meter aspect because that's too arcadey, and the Shardlight approach is fine. I prefer that a lot, but it sort of reduces the danger aspect of it. There has to be that uncertainty where you could potentially, but not because of some arbitrary timer or health meter or whatever, but there is still some sort of danger attached to it. That's not just scripted, that's not just going to play out. And what I figured would be a nice middle ground was to take a sort of the Colonel's Bequest type approach to it, where you have a story and it's, start to finish, And there are certain story beats throughout the game that are mandatory. You have to see these in order to reach the end of the game. But there are a ton of them that do not impact the story whatsoever, that are optional, but really are necessary in order to grasp, the full concept, the full story, the big picture, as it were. And I feel like you could take a game mechanic like that and then have certain triggers within, some optional, some not, that advance the stage of the protagonist's disease. Which is a lovely concept, and I feel is particularly just non-controversial in these times. Just an absolute breath of fresh air. I wish someone would have thought of this sooner, before this all became not so much fun. But something along those lines, where if you start barking up the wrong tree, start talking to the wrong type of people, or start questioning them about certain things, it sort of triggers an advancement of whatever it is inside you. And so the question, or the purpose of the game really becomes not just advancing the story and seeing the many facets of the story, but also avoiding certain pitfalls or taking certain risks in order to learn more at the risk of your health. It could be an interesting game mechanic. It's very insensitive, especially for a relatively healthy person like me. Excuse me, who I realize how this may come across, but again, trust me, I mean no ill will. Wrong choice of words, but still, it could be an interesting game mechanic, and I'm kind of surprised no one has thought of it yet. Might want to give it a few months, maybe to a year, before we start pitching this. But anyway, it was something to think about as everyone drops dead around me, I guess. So, yeah, I guess that's it. See you around the Chrono Stream. Bye.